I always used to look at smartwatches as something that I didn't necessarily need, but I always wanted. There was always something so cool to me about having something so technologically advanced and cool right there on your wrist at all times. And as time has gone on, and as I've owned several different smartwatches, starting off with the Moto 360 way back in the day, the original Moto 360 might I had, I've gotten so used to having one that now I don't know what I would do without it. My Fitbit Versa 3 has been my smartwatch of choice for the last little bit. Great battery life, great sleep tracking, heart rate monitor, tons of activity tracking options and things like that. But I've always had my eye on Wear OS because obviously I'm an Android user. And even though Fitbit is quite good and it's not actually owned by Google, I've always wanted to go back to Wear OS once those watches got to a place I could justify. The watch I had before this one was my Fossil Sport. I had a nice little different band on there and I wore this thing every day for a couple of years and really did enjoy it. But the biggest problem it had for me was just the overall sluggishness and really bad battery life. That thing would barely make it through a day. Well, I'm going to be testing out something quite exciting to me. The guys and gals over at Mobvoi have sent over their new TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS. That is a mouthful, but this watch looks really good. Wear OS has come a long ways since my Fossil Sport. This thing has a much faster system on a chip, and the software itself should be much improved. So what I got to do first here, obviously, is let's unbox this thing and get a quick first impressions done. There we are, the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS Wear OS by Google. On the back side here, we are running the Qualcomm 4100 platform, and that's a big deal. That's going to run a whole lot better than my old Fossil watch did. Military standard 810G. This thing is pretty rugged. 72 hours of battery in smart mode. Now that's something I'm going to have to really put through its paces because my Fitbit Versa, I might have to charge this thing about every 4 or 5 days, 45 days in essential mode. So battery life going to be very important. It's something I'm going to definitely be testing. Different workout modes. It is IP68 waterproof and swim suitable. It's another great thing to see here. I will shower with this watch on. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but it's waterproof. It's fine. Google Assistant. I use Google Assistant all the time on my Versa. It's fast. It's actually really, really good on this thing. So that's going to be fun to watch as well. IHB and AFib detections. This thing's got some really advanced monitoring, built-in GPS, dual display with customized colorful backlight. So that's how it's going to help save some battery life. Sleep and stress tracking, Google Pay, tons of watch faces. I mean, this thing really has about everything you'd want as far as features. Let's get into this unboxing now. Slide this out of the side, and as it says there, TicWatch, and a nice embossed kind of look there. That's a nice touch. And this should lift off. This is a great test too about a good unboxing experience. Almost no resistance, just pulled right off. And first impression here of the watch itself, that looks quite nice. Everything feels, ooh, that feels quite premium. How about let's see, how does the button is nice and clicky. So these buttons here on the side, you've got dual knobs, and they do, of course, turn, which is good. They both feel good, but they're both very clicky. They require a decent amount of resistance to click, and that is also something that I like. We have a silicone band here, which should be relatively comfortable. It's what I'm used to here on my Fitbit, so that's actually all right by me. And one thing that I'm gonna have to get used to is it is much larger than my Fitbit Versa, so I'm gonna have to get used to that. The band feels pretty flexible, though that's not so bad. And obviously you can see below here all of the different tracking things going on. That's going to be how it's going to charge there. You do have a quick release here for the band. So I almost wonder, you have to check this out, is that band, will my nice metal band work on this? And if it does, is that something that I would want to have sleeping with it on? Because obviously could not sleep with this thing, that needed to be charged. So I have to check that out as well. This is how it does charge though. You've got a little magnetic thing here, and this just plugs into a charging brick of your choice. And let's see here, I guess we'll follow the shape of the curvature there. And that is quite a strong magnet actually, pretty good. And then we have some paperwork there in that last tray. We're not going to worry about any paperwork. I think we can manage to set this thing up. All right, let's take off the Versa. And we got a peel here to do, right? Let's do the peel. Always satisfying. All right, I'm a skinny person, and this is a rather large band for me, but it is now on. And I mean, it's not too heavy. The weight is very similar to the original, or to the Fitbit Versa that I am used to using. Holding that top button, it just now got a vibration, and there it says TicWatch. We are now going to boot up. Nice little animation there. That was actually pretty quick to boot up. So let's tap to begin. I guess I can zoom in here and give you guys a better look, so I'm not holding my arm up super awkwardly. So let's walk through the setup here. We're going to go into English. And I'm just going to give you an idea of how this setup is, how fluid, how responsive and quick this setup is. Can we use these to scroll? Not that one. Not that one either. I'd like to see that scrolling be a thing in the setup, but oh well, is what it is. That's pretty smooth though. We're just going to go ahead and lie and say that we read those. Download Wear OS on your phone. That's something that I have not had to do in a while. So let's go here to my Surface Duo 2, which of course is a great device to need a smartwatch because there's no cover display. And let's install Wear OS. Move this over here and we'll go single screen, make this a bit easier. All right, so we're gonna start setup here. We're going to agree, and we should see this thing popping up here, and we have TicWatch 3 Pro Ultra. We're going to go ahead and allow it to pair. We are connected. Now, this was always a long process with my Fossil. This always seemed to take forever and was super laggy. I'm really curious to see how this is going to go on a more recent, more modern Wear OS smartwatch. It's asking me to copy my Google accounts to this watch. We're going to go ahead and do that and use my fingerprint to authenticate. While this is doing that, I'm actually going to weigh these things. So the Versa is 41 grams. Wi-Fi is now popping up here to be set up. We're going to allow permissions. Check your calendar. Yep. Notifications at a glance. Yep, going to allow that. Location notice. You're all set. Are we actually already done? It says completing setup. That was actually quite quick. So I'm going to take this off real quick. What did I say this was? 41 grams. It is 68 grams. It is definitely heavier than the Versa. No question there. It is quite a bit heavier, but I'm telling you, it really doesn't feel all that heavy. Okay, we are fully set up now, and this is Wear OS, where you swipe down to get to your quick settings here. You swipe to the left to get to a sort of Google feed, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. Swiping to the right will be some different pages that you can customize what you want to see. And then swiping down gets you to your notifications, which I can clear by swiping away. And what are these buttons here? What are they going to be doing? So clicking that button brings me into my apps list, but I'm still not getting anything by scrolling here, by turning these knobs. We have several pre-installed apps that we're going to need to set up, like Google Pay. What does this button do? That button went into Tic Coach, which I think is some sort of a sport tracking thing, which we're not going to worry about, and that will take me back home now. We're now measuring my heart rate here, which is something that I do like to be able to have access to at all times, just to be able to track that kind of thing. We're at 66 BPM. That's not too crazy. And let's go back home. Pretty snappy. I mean, even just going through these pages, this is quite snappy. I really can't tell you how much faster this is than what I was experiencing before. Let's see if any of these trigger Google Assistant. It did. Try that again, now that I know that it's coming. What's the forecast for tomorrow?
Tomorrow in Knoxville, it'll be mostly sunny, with a high of 61 and a low of 40.
That is so much better than it was on my old watch. That is actually faster than it is on my Versa. Does long pressing this one do anything? That just gives you like a power menu, and you can also customize a function button. Okay. So this is actually really interesting, and I need to show you guys this. Dual Display 2.0 has a lower power screen on top of an AMOLED display. So what that means is when the AMOLED is not being used, what you instead get is this. And you're even going to be able to see this on a camera. You can see my time there. And then it wakes up into that. The AMOLED actually turns on. So there is effectively a secondary low power screen. It's probably hard to see that on this camera, but I'm telling you that in person, I can read it relatively easily. Just looking at it, it's there. And I think that actually in brighter light, I think it's going to be easier to read it. I think it's like an old Game Boy screens with no backlight. Yeah, if I put light on it, it's actually way easier. So like outside, it'll be easier to read than inside. That's actually very, very cool. There's some cool stuff going on here for sure. And one more cool thing about this low power display here is that when it detects you lifting it up towards you, it actually does have a backlight, which makes it even more visible indoors. Whereas outdoors, the backlight kind of doesn't matter because light coming from the outside, like an old Game Boy screen, makes it really easy to see. So stepping outside here, you're really going to be able to see how cool that low power display actually is. Like, it is super visible outside. In fact, if I wake up the display, despite that rolling thing going on, that's pretty visible even in direct sunlight. But then what's really cool is that when this does go to sleep and that low power screen comes back on, I think that's actually easier to read in direct sunlight than the actual OLED display is. Pretty cool. Guys, I'm going to put a link in the description to Mobvoi directly, the link to this watch. I'm also going to put a link in the description to this watch on Amazon as well. But if you want to check this thing out, you're looking at $299 on Amazon. And again, check out both the links I'm going to put in the description. Expect a full review coming very soon. Once I've had enough time to wear this thing for several days, sleep in it, and so forth and so on, really test everything that it has up its sleeve, so to speak, I will be back with a full review. Thanks a ton to Mobvoi for sending this thing out. I'm really excited to have a new smartwatch to be testing, and I'll be back with some more coverage on this thing very soon. So guys, until then, stay nerdy, my friends.